Sirene huilt door lege straten, baksteen trilt onder de schoen. Tussen puin nog warme stoepen, ademt Rotterdam het doen. Rotterdam blijft staan, hoor ons harten slaan. Tussen vuur en puin blijven wij getuigen. Rotterdam blijft staan, schouder aan schouder voort. Als ze onze stenen nemen, houden wij het woord. Hey.
Today, when you walk through Rotterdam, what you see is a modern city. Wide streets, bold buildings, a skyline that feels new and deliberate. But it didn't always look like this. Before the Second World War, the centre of Rotterdam was something else entirely. It was dense, compact, and built up over centuries. Streets were narrow, often uneven. Canals ran through neighbourhoods. Houses, shops, warehouses, and small businesses were packed tightly together. It wasn't planned in one go. It had grown piece by piece. And that version of Rotterdam disappeared on the 14th of May 1940. A few days earlier, on 10th of May, Germany invaded the Netherlands. Rotterdam quickly became a key target, not just because it was a large city, but because of what it represented. The bridges over the Maas, the port, the infrastructure, it all mattered strategically. For several days, people lived in uncertainty. There was fighting in and around the city, but no one knew how far it would go. Would Rotterdam be defended street by street? Would it be destroyed in battle, or would it surrender? Then, early in the afternoon of 14th of May, that uncertainty ended. At 13:27, German bombers appeared over the city. The bombardment itself lasted only about 15 minutes. What followed were fires. Because the centre was so tightly built, fire spread fast. The wind carried it across rooftops and through narrow streets. Buildings fed into each other, wood, brick, everything close together. Within a short time, large parts of the historic centre were burning. And what disappeared wasn't just architecture, it was the everyday city. Streets people walked without thinking, markets they used every week, cafes, homes, familiar corners. That's the city we're going to walk through. Let's start where Rotterdam really begins, by the water. In the early 20th century, Rotterdam was already one of Europe's major ports, just like today, but the difference was how close it all felt. The port wasn't somewhere outside the city, it was right there, woven into it. If you stood at the Oude haven, you'd see ships everywhere. Masts packed together, steamships docked along the quays, barges moving slowly through the water. There was constant activity, loading, unloading, shouting, moving goods. And just beyond that, the newer Maas, the wider river, where ships came in from across the world and left again. This connection to the sea is what shaped Rotterdam. It's why the city grew the way it did. Around 1900, that growth accelerated. Trade expanded, industry increased, and people moved into the city from across the Netherlands. The port kept expanding outward, but the centre stayed dense and active.
Rotterdam, jij kent me pijn, jij zag me vallen, zag me klein. Tussen puin en nieuwe dromen ben ik steeds weer teruggekomen.
Right here, near the Oude haven, stood one of the most striking buildings in the city, the Witte House. Built in 1898, it rose far above everything around it. At the time, most buildings were much lower, so this one stood out immediately. It represented something new, a city that wasn't just historic, but also modernizing fast. And somehow, it survived the destruction of 1940. Today, it's one of the few buildings where you can still stand and look at something that was part of the original skyline. Next to it was Plan C. This wasn't just one building, it was a whole complex. Restaurants, shops, offices, passageways. It was a place people actually used every day. You could eat there, meet people, walk through it on your way somewhere else. It was part of the social life of the area. That entire complex was destroyed in the bombing. If you look at photos now, it doesn't feel like a distant past. It feels like a place that suddenly stopped existing. If you turn slightly east from here, you'd see something very different on the skyline, a windmill. At Oostplein stood De Noord. It might seem out of place in a city like Rotterdam, but that's exactly the point. It showed that the older Netherlands was still present, even in a rapidly modernizing port city. De Noord survived the bombing in 1940. While much of the city around it was destroyed, the mill was still standing. It became one of those rare landmarks people could still recognize in the ruined city. But it didn't survive long after. In July 1954, it caught fire and burned down. There's a well-known photograph of the mill in flames, with the structure collapsing into fire. Along the Boompjes, you'd see people strolling, watching ships, talking, taking in the view of the river. It was one of the few places where you could step back from the density of the center, and it sounded busy. Gulls overhead, workers calling out, ropes hitting wood, carts rolling over stone. You'd hear different languages because sailors came from everywhere. From the water, we move into the historic centre. This is where Rotterdam really felt different from today. The city here was tight. Streets ran close together. Buildings were packed side by side. There wasn't much open space. One of the key waterways here was the Delftsevaart. It cut through the city and connected different parts of the old urban layout. Near it stood the Delftse Poort, one of the old city gates. By the late 1930s, it had become a problem. The city was changing, traffic was increasing, and the gate was in the way. Instead of demolishing it, the city decided to carefully take it apart and move it somewhere else. That process had already started just before the war. But the war interrupted everything. The gate never returned to its place in the city, and over time, it disappeared from the urban landscape. From here, you move toward Hofplein. Even before the war, this was a busy point. Roads, trams, and traffic all came together here. It was a place of movement, not somewhere you stopped for long. And from Hofplein, you step onto the Coolsingel. This was Rotterdam's statement, a wide boulevard designed to show that the city was modern, confident, and growing. But before following it, we turn into the older part of the city. This is where the city felt most alive.
Rotterdam, jij kent mijn pijn, jij zag me vallen, zag me klein. Tussen puin en nieuwe dromen ben ik steeds weer teruggekomen. Rotterdam.
The Grote Markt wasn't a clean, open square. It was part of a dense network of streets. Stalls filled the space. Vendors sold fish, vegetables, flowers. People moved through constantly, stopping, talking, bargaining, moving on. It was crowded, loud, and a bit chaotic. Almost all of this disappeared in 1940. Today, when you stand there, it's hard to imagine how packed it once was. Above everything stood the Laurenskerk. Its tower was visible across the city. If you got lost, you could look up and find your way again. During the bombing, the church was heavily damaged. The roof burned, large parts of the building were destroyed, but the tower remained standing. That image of the tower rising above ruins became symbolic almost immediately. After the war, there was debate about whether to rebuild it at all. The city was changing, and not everyone saw a place for restoring old structures. Restoration didn't begin until 1952, and it took until 1968 to complete. Today, when you walk inside, you're standing in something that connects directly to the pre-war city. Nearby is the Schielandshuis. This building is much older, 17th century. It had already survived a major fire long before the war, and then it survived the bombardment as well. Now it stands in the middle of modern buildings, clearly from another time. It's one of the few places where the older Rotterdam is still physically present. Now we go back to the Coolsingel. This area had changed a lot even before the war. It used to be the Zandstraatbuurt, known for poverty, nightlife, and a rough reputation. The city cleared it to build something new. What replaced it was wide, structured, and meant to impress. The Stadhuis, opened in 1920, was the centerpiece. It was designed to look solid and authoritative, a building that said, "This is a serious city." In 1940, while much of the surrounding area burned, the Stadhuis survived. Fire crews worked hard to keep it from being lost. Next to it stood the Hoofdpostkantoor, completed in 1923. This wasn't just a post office, it was a central hub for communication, mail, telegraphs, all of it. People came here daily. It was a key part of how the city functioned. Like the Stadhuis, it survived the bombing. It was hit and damaged, but it stayed standing. After repairs, it continued to function in the city. Not everything on the Coolsingel made it. The Coolsingel Ziekenhuis was destroyed. This was a hospital. During the fire, patients had to be evacuated while the building burned around them. After the war, nothing of it remained. At Beursplein stood the old Beurs, Rotterdam's centre of trade and business. This building was destroyed during the German bombing of 14th of May 1940. However, a new Beurs had already been under construction nearby since 1936 and was nearly completed at the time of the bombing. Unlike the old building, this new one was not completely destroyed. It was damaged, repaired after the war, and continued to be used. And then there was the Bijenkorf. Opened in 1930, it was one of the most modern buildings in the city. Designed by Dudok, it stood for a new kind of Rotterdam. Modern, confident, focused on shopping and urban life. The bombing destroyed a large part of it, but not everything. Part of the building remained and was still used for a period after the war. Only later was it fully removed during Reconstruction.
Rotterdam blijft in mijn hart.
Tussen verf op mijn kloffie,
Stof in mijn kas.
jij was er al toen ik niks meer had. Je hield me recht als de rest me liet vallen.
Rotterdam blijft in mijn hart.
To really understand the city, you have to step away from the big buildings and look at everyday streets. The Hoogstraat was one of the main shopping streets. In footage from the late 1930s, it's packed. People walking, cycling, trams running through the middle, shops on both sides, signs everywhere. It wasn't wide. Everything happened close together. There were cinemas here too. One of the best known was the Astor Theatre. In the evenings, people gathered there, going to films or meeting friends before heading somewhere else. During the day, it was constant movement. People stopping at shop windows, trams passing through, bells ringing to clear the way. Nearby, the Binnenrotte hosted a large market. This was where people bought everyday things, food, goods, supplies. It wasn't occasional, it was part of daily life. In the smaller streets around it, cafes mixed locals, workers, and sailors. You could move from a quiet street into a busy one within seconds. Water was still part of the layout here. Canals cut through parts of the centre. Some of the wide, open areas you see today only exist because everything was cleared after the war. Now imagine the city in the evening. Streetlights come on. Trams move through the streets. Signs light up above cafes and cinemas. People go out, meet, talk, move from one place to another. Some streets are busy and bright, others are quieter. That's what was lost in 1940. Not just buildings, but a whole way of living. Streets people knew, places they used every day without thinking. Rotterdam today is built on top of that city. When you walk through the modern centre, you're walking through a place that used to look completely different. The old city disappeared in a matter of hours. But if you know the story, you can still see where it used to be.
Rotterdam staat nog, hoor ons door de vlam aan. Rotterdam staat nog, wij laten hier geen stap meer staan. Laat de hemel maar weer scheuren, laat het stalen wolken slaan. Rotterdam staat nog, en wij zullen hier blijven staan.